Welcome to City on a Hill Gaming, a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast. We hope you enjoy our episode.
So that's kind of the question. Do you want to be a local expert? Or do you want to be new to the area?
So is that where, I don't know if I could be an expert in anything.
Well, you're going to be an expert in magic, for one thing.
Your character is an expert. You, William, don't have to know all that much about deserts. If you're supposed to know it, you'll know it.
I guess that could fit into the Magi, right?
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be a good part to play.
They sort of make their bones being the guys who know the things from that perspective. So I think that fits you beautifully.
Have you been living out here long?
I hope so if I'm an expert.
Okay. Well, not every expert in a field is, residing in that area, There's always the academic at a distance going, I get to finally see it in person. But yeah, if you want to be the local Dragonborn wizard or magi who's been out here for a while and, has local contacts and knows where to get spell components and all that sort of stuff, great. I am down for that.
Sure. It'd be a challenge.
Sweet. Well, again, it's all role play, right? You roll the dice and you're like, does my character know a thing? They do. Yeah. Here's the thing. Guys, I know this thing. It works out.
Okay.
Yeah. You pick a color, we will find you a dope character picture.
Exactly. Ben, your satyr druid, are they new to the area? Have they been around here long? Where do they fit into this idea?
I would probably go with say that they have been around the area, especially being if we're going with the security guild, adventure like kind of thing. 4 or 5 years probably. Also going with the level 7 motif. He's seen some things. He's experienced some things. Probably hasn't been out of this area, especially going with that satyr. Probably came from the grassland area and found something in the bazaar that just caught his eye.
Okay, so is he from the Great Bazaar then, maybe? Because the road goes down through that grassland down towards the Great Bazaar.
Probably from the grassland area on the down southwest. And just came probably on a whim or on a search for more nature, for more experiences in the natural world.
Is it maybe just like, wait, I'm hearing that nature is failing, I need to do something about that? Like you feel a kind of a calling to deal with that problem?
Yeah, that's actually great. How long have we established or thought about, or is this too far, how long this has been going on as far as failing of nature in this area?
My pitch was a month, but that is wildly flexible. It can be a year, right? It doesn't really matter. A year might actually be slightly too long, but if it's a couple of months and it's a slower process, cool, whatever, doesn't matter.
Yeah, probably then that would make sense then if he'd come here specifically looking for for the nature aspect of what's failing, but also I would especially because I think I'm going to tailor him a little more healer than necessarily combat, but also thinking wild shape fun, looking for more things that he would learn and more animals that he would come across to expand his personal repertoire.
I mean, right off the bat, you have adorable desert foxes and cute little owls that live in cacti, so excellent choice there.
And actually, this is an interesting thought. If you've got you as sort of a nature expert, as it were, investigating what's going on here and the failure of nature here, that seems like you and your character and William's character might have run into each other and started cooperating before the rest of this group showed up.
Yes. William,
what do you think?
That makes sense.
Right. So you are sort of the local experts, the both of you, and then everyone else sort of rolls up and is like, we're looking for people who know anything about this, and you guys go, well, we know a few things. Does that seem like a reasonable sort of way that you guys might have come together and have been working on this?
How does that fit in with Ryan's character?
For me, I think at that point it just kind of becomes, so you have the two sort of knowledgeable experts. You have the guy who has been sent to fix a problem. You have the guy who's there for security, and you have the guy who's going to take you the places, which I guess is in theory is Ruach. Ruach would be the one who, okay, yeah, I know where that is. Yeah, sure, I can. And I think it makes some sense that with the caravans having more and more issues, maybe they start hiring more local guides instead of just kind of trying to do their own thing in some cases. And so I've been out in that area in some sense. I'm maybe not an expert on a subject matter. I just know the places and I've traveled the routes.
Yeah, if
and
you've
I'm
been
willing to
on the
take people
roads,
places.
you're maybe the person to go to for, yeah, I know the roads, I know where the oases are, I've seen some of these problems firsthand. Let me take you to them.
Right.
There's a skill in GURPS called area knowledge that tells you about, you put ranks into it and you know stuff about a certain area. Sounds like Ryan's character is going to have area knowledge for this desert.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of this going on. I roll all of that into history because, I mean, there's no other use for the skill in D&D. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree with how you implement it in D&D. I'm just talking on a conceptual level.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think William's character's got a lot of area knowledge as well, as does Benjamin's. And so it's just, Ryan's character, would you say Ruach? Was that the character name?
Yeah, sorry, I hadn't said that yet.
Cool.
For reference, our Patreon backers picked the character name. I gave them a list of options, and they picked Ruach, which is a name I've used in the game before, but it's a name I really like. It's a Hebrew word, so
wonderful name.
I went with
Absolutely
that.
Wonderful name. Yeah, you could very well be. Okay, so we've got a flora and fauna specialist, a geography specialist, and perhaps Ryan, your character is less about the nature and like the roads, and more about the people.
I think that because sort of that transition point for Shepherd to me is from the literal shepherd, a lot of them are, to with a flock of whatever beast of whatever type, not necessarily sheep or whatever the analog would be, but to a person who guides a group of people in a similar protective sense. So yeah, no, I think that makes sense that he's sort of I like that actually. He's the dude who knows the people in the area because he's taken them to places. He's spent time with them.
Yeah.
Did we just accidentally create the science team from Bones?
There's something like this I've seen somewhere before. I'm not sure where it is, but we're pretty close onto something.
The flora, fauna, the physically protective, the geography specialist.
I mean, it's any good investigative team, right? You've got your variously skilled investigators. It works out.
Yeah, this will probably go much better than if we tried to invent the A team.
Very true.
Okay, leverage crew.
Peter, how do you feel about Mohawks?
For this particular character, not great. I was thinking a guy probably in his early to mid 50s with a bunch of white hair. So
No, that's not going to be quite the same.
Mr. T still has a mohawk.
That's true.
Okay.
And the word ruach in Hebrew, I believe, is it's like breath or wind.
Oh, okay.
It's sort of,
That's
and
cool.
it made sense for an air genasi, which is where I ended up with the name originally.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, Grant, go wherever you were going. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I'm just listening.
By the way, this kind of like circular talking around and coming back to the same thing over and over again, very typical for a session 0.
Yeah, that's how we do this. So, and we've got a couple of relationships already established as well, which is great, right? We know that William's character and Ben's character know each other and have known each other for a while before everybody else rolled into town, which is a pretty good thing. I like that. We know that there's a professional relationship between Ansel and Peter's character. Ruach, I don't think has those firm connections yet, but that's fine. We can kind of
not necessarily. No, we'll figure that. I think it's more of at some point someone's been in my caravan, or I've done work for someone that put me around each of them.
I think maybe my character would probably be a good one for that because he's going to have gone out. Like, he's not a huge amount of use back in a city unless it's like under siege or something. And even then, he's not so much that kind of a protective specialist as like, make sure that things don't go bad when you're moving from place to place. So somebody like that and somebody who does like guides and, navigates and stuff like that, seems like they would have run into each other in a professional capacity, whether they were trying to or not.
Well, yeah, just to like spitball ideas, maybe you were riding shotgun on one of the caravans that went through that Ryan's character was leading.
And in fact, you know what? Here's an idea. Maybe whatever my character's name winds up being was a guard with like the last caravan that went through before everything went sideways. Like he was with the last normal one. And then he gets into town and, he takes a certain amount of time to kind of rest up between jobs. And he just keeps hearing crazier and crazier stories. And it's like, I got to get out, back out there. This is going to be really dangerous for anybody who, tries to do this on their own.
So I'm going to present something else here real quick while we work this up. Got a little diagram here of the relationships we've got so far.
Flowcharts.
Yes.
I'm here for
Diagrams.net. Yeah. Well, it's useful to kind of lay it out visually and kind of see what needs to be filled out. Because I'd like everybody to have enough connections that it feels interconnected without all of the relationships being defined before the game starts and there's no room to grow. You know, the character who shows up with 10 pages of backstory and refuses to grow because they've got all the backstory to fulfill? We don't want that. And you can have that with a group just as much as with an individual character.
Okay, so right now we've got a group of 3 and a group of 2 and nothing connecting those. So we need to get at least one connecting line in there someplace.
Yeah, let's add 2 more lines, at least one of which connects these 2 groups. And just so everyone knows, we've got the Ryan Peter previously worked caravans together line, the Peter Daniel mutual professional relationship, going on right this second, and then Ben and William's character investigating these problems beforehand.
So for me, the obvious connection I would see is Ryan's character that would know either William or Ben, because honestly, I picture Ryan's character as kind of like, kind of like my mom after church, where she has to stop and talk to literally every single other person in the church before she gets out to the parking lot.
Ah, yes.
Or at least,
I have zero
back in the
objections
before
to
times.
being that character. That's perfectly fine with me.
Yeah, let me tell you, virtual services don't stop that.
Oh, no, they don't. I have to run those Zoom meetings.
No, please. We need you to get off the Zoom call. Please, come on. Oh, but we're talking, Yeah.
You have a cell phone.
Yeah, call each other. I have other stuff to do.
We actually did a memorial service for my grandmother online a couple weeks ago, and let me tell you, it was the same way. So, yeah. So, Ryan, I'm going to let Ben or William, Ben, you're talking. Sorry, I cut you off to say, please do the thing you're doing. Ben, let's have you figure out or William figure out how you're connected to Ryan's character here.
I think with at least how I'm interpreting all of everything that's going on with Ryan, it's that being part of the local geographical expert, whatever, we would have at least one of us would have crossed paths in wandering around and doing the personal investigation, or just like campers out camping. You tend to run across other hikers and campers.
At some point, it's likely I either saw you somewhere, I was taking someone, or I took you somewhere.
Right.
Like, okay, hey, I want to go see this out in the actual place it exists in. Oh, yeah, I know where that is. I can take you out there. That's fine. No problem. I think that's a definitely workable thing.
Just like, your life is in my hands. It's not threatening at all.
No, not at all.
I will need you to read all of these when you're done with them, because they're my favorite things yet.
All right. So what one more line could we have? I have a hard time coming up with additional connections for Ansel. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I still want him to feel very much like a fish out of water. But if there's if there's any good connections, then it should kind of see if we can come up with something. Because Grant said he wanted at least 2 more lines. We got 1.
Well, and if Ansel is looking for, was tasked with investigating the issues of nature, it would make sense, I think, that Reap or Ben would be at least a stop on his journey to find somebody who knew something.
Well, maybe. I think my idea for the character is, or at least my charge, or the reason I've been sent out here, doesn't have anything to do with the cause. It is, I have to find the thing. I have to find the caravan. Whatever the cause is like.
Got it.
That's not actually on my form. That's not the part that I have to fill out, as I don't have to put. Well, I do have to put cause, but it can be vague. They don't really care about that. But I just need the inventory.
I just like that there's actual paperwork for this.
Oh, I'm going to be inventing paperwork. It's going to be great.
Mean, this is great. I love that. This is how Ansel works. I got to fill this out. I'm gonna fill this out.
No, I'm going to be filling in worker quests and wondering if what I'm going to need in order to expense this out, or
will my expenses be approved?
Yeah, no, it's going to be fantastic.
I'm about it.
I love it. So, sorry, my ADD brain has kicked in here a little bit. Did we have a connection between Ansel and William or Ben's characters?
I don't think we settled on one. I'm fine with Ansel not having any more connections. Just the one is fine, because I'm comfortable with him feeling like a fish out of water.
Okay. Are we fine with this map as it is then? Just these 4 connections that connect these 5 people? Or do we want to add one more?
I think it's viable, because I guess if we're wanting to look for a point of connection to sort of our specialist, then I think it makes more sense to either put that for me or Peter to some extent. Mm-hmm. As we sort of seem to be the ones more who have just been out around a lot of folks. Yeah. Doing our jobs. That puts us in front of a lot of people. So we've met a lot of people. We
could easily be the nucleus of this group.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that, because that's sort of Ruach, like you said, is sort of the as you he knows the people, he's been around the people. I don't mind, like Peter said, I don't mind being the one who knows the people. As sort of that, right. Oh yeah, no, I've taken him a place, or we grew up together, or whatever it is, just that point of contact.
Let me maybe throw this out there then. Ben, your druid has been around this area. You know the wildlife a fair bit. There's a lot of dangerous wildlife in this area. Is that something that, Peter, your character would have wanted to maybe work with someone to know about ahead of time? Like, hey, what are the signs of, desert manticores or whatever, right?
Oh, heavens, yes. How do I all about that? Stay? Help me do my job, please. Make me more effective? Yes, please.
Okay.
Not a lot of arrogance in this character concept. He's going to be very pragmatic and very willing to accept help.
And possibly, just to complete the weird triangles, possibly Ryan and William know each other from the same kind of thing. I know a place, I know a guy.
Sure. I mean, William, if you're the place expert, roads change in a desert. Dunes don't stay still. And oases, listen, oases are valuable, but sometimes they dry up for no obvious reason. Sometimes new ones appear. That seems like the sort of thing that you could very well be an expert on.
That marker disappeared under that 6 inches of sand that blew through in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Where was that?
Where was it? Oh, that was over here. How do you know? Well, this other thing's over here. Yeah, no, absolutely.
How do you know that that's over there? Look, I just know. Kicks the sand, hits the solid object.
Yeah. So maybe his main thing is helping with caravan navigation and landmarks and mapping. Does that seem reasonable, William?
Yeah.
And I think at that point it makes a ton of sense for me to know him if I have taken up that guide responsibility with caravans. I know the guy who runs the maps for the caravans.
Yeah, that would be an absolutely natural pairing. If you two didn't know each other, somebody would need to introduce you yesterday.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
So that's 6 connections between these 5 characters. And it's interesting how this worked out, right? So Ryan, Peter, and Ben's characters have 3 connections. Williams has 2 connections, and Daniel, as the outsider, you've only got the 1 connection, and that kind of fits with what we wanted. So I think this is good. I think this is enough to run with for right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree. I feel really good about this.
I think it's
Cool.
a good spread that fits each of the characters individually. I think it makes a lot of sense, like Daniel said, for him to just really not have more than that 1 point of connection.
Awesome. Ben, anything to add?
No, it looks good to me.
William?
I think I'm good.
Okay, cool. So before we get into anything else, let's talk safety. So, Peter, I'm going to get another drink. Do you want to talk about safety mechanics real quick?
Sure. So, we just going to use lines and veils in the X card for this one?
Yeah,
or?
I think just lines and veils and basically how I've done it in my game. You know how that works.
Yeah. Okay. So, basically, you've got 2 primary types of safety technique. You've got filters and you got breaks. Lines and veils are filters. They are designed to exclude stuff from the game that is going to make somebody uncomfortable or diminish their level of enjoyment at the outset. Lines are things that you don't want in the game at all. So for something like this, any sort of, let's just say, adult themes, particularly with regard to relationships, not even going to come up, not even obliquely. Gruesome violence of any kind, also not going to come up. And then veils are things that it's okay if this happens, but let's not, let's kind of have this happen, quote unquote, off camera. You can mention that it happened, but it's not something that should be portrayed real graphically or focused on. So,
right. Or there can be evidence of it happening, but it should never be happening on screen.
So,
Hitchcock-esque.
yeah, or even just kind of like, this standard fade to black that happens in so many pieces of media. For this particular thing, given kind of the family-friendly nature of this, but also the environment, like people suffering from thirst is probably something we'll want to at least acknowledge can happen with the oases gone, but we're not going to dwell on somebody who's like all parched and really suffering for like a lengthy amount of time. If we come up with somebody that looks really thirsty, we're all playing, relatively good people. It's a family-friendly thing. We're going to give them a drink and then talk to them because that's going to be the point of it.
And I know Create Food and Water is on at least one spell list, so
Yeah, I think that's a druid spell, so
I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure it's also on
Yeah,
mine.
it has always been a druid thing, as far as I know.
Yeah. So that's that's something easily doable.
that was a
Couple
spell
of
that Lambert always had prepared in your colony game.
Yeah, for very good reason. Worked out well. One other note on lines and veils. We're going to talk about them here, okay? Actually, 2 notes. First of all, if you say this is a line for me, this is a veil for me, you do not have to justify it to anyone. Just say it.
Yep.
We trust
If
you.
explaining would help you somehow, feel
Go
free.
for it.
You are not forbidden from explaining yourself. You are just not obligated to. Also,
that is-
one other thing before we carry on too far, I mentioned there's filters and breaks. The X card is a break safety thing. If something comes up organically in the game that is too much in the moment for whatever reason, once again, you do not have to justify it, although you are welcome to if you wish. You can say, whoa, stop. This is too much. I can't handle this. And if we were sitting at a table, you'd have like a card with an X on it, and you would tap it or slide it into the middle of the table or somehow otherwise indicate that you were invoking it. And at that point, you just stop and you back up from whatever was causing people problems, and you take the story in a different direction. It's real simple, and it makes the game more enjoyable for everybody because stuff that's unpleasant and upsetting just kind of gets dealt with, and instead of ruining people's fun and causing people to drop out of games and things. So
Absolutely. Also, while we are doing some initial lines and veils work here to establish what I should prepare for and what I should not prepare for, as I'm setting up combat encounters or, I was going to run this skill challenge where everybody got super thirsty and very nearly died, but that's off the table now, whatever it is. We're going to talk about those here. If you have something to add later because you just didn't think of it, that's fine too, right?
Yeah, those are living lists.
Yes, absolutely. Do not feel like this is set in stone.
Yep.
All right. So
one other thing I should bring up here. A lot of the time when people hear about this for the first time, they're like, "Oh, what are you doing? You know, this seems like an awful lot. You know, this is going to be messing with me as we're playing." I did lines and veils at the beginning of my current campaign that I'm running for my Sunday group. None of the stuff has even come up. It has had no noticeable effect on the game. Nobody has had to invoke an X card or anything even once. It is just if you are doing this correctly, it is the sort of thing that you do kind of out of respect for the other human beings around the table, and then you really don't have to worry about very much after that, unless something comes up by accident, and then you apologize, fix it, and move on.
So, if, given that this is a G-rated thing, Ryan, are there any setting-based lines and veils that you want to bring up first? Because you're sort of in charge of the setting, and also it's your production.
Sure.
Your name is on the title card, and thus your reputation, as it were. So you're sort of responsible for that. Is there anything that you're like, as a producer, this is off the table?
Knowing this group and some discussions we've had in the past, obviously, like Peter's had a lot of the adult things. I think drugs of any kind probably is something I just want to avoid. I know those don't always have to be a hardline issue in some games, and you can do some interesting things with it. I think for our purposes, it's probably not something we want. From a world building setting perspective, I have built this as a monotheistic game setting to some extent. How that fleshes out is still something I'm trying to figure out, because I'm tempted to make some changes not in the monotheistic nature of it so much as the way we address and interact with that. That's something I'm still trying to sort out on my own.
Sure.
So anything that plays too heavily into the counterness of that is an issue for me. In general, nothing I expect from you, frankly.
Sure.
For what it's worth, from this group in general, there were very few things I would want to add to a list that I think would become an issue to begin with.
Right. For myself, I will say violence against children and children being in helpless situations is a real line for me. That makes me deeply uncomfortable.
I have no objections.
And a veil for me, and again, I don't really expect this to come up in this game, torture.
Yeah.
Like if we go into a torture chamber, and I don't, again, expect this to come up in this game, it's like, oh yeah, this is an old torture chamber. It probably happened here. It's off the screen enough that's fine, but it definitely shouldn't be happening on screen for me.
That might actually be a little more of an actual just straight up line for me. Not both from a setting and from a Ryan perspective, I think.
And that's fine.
Largely from a setting. And I'm not even going to use the word setting. From a content for our audience perspective.
Right. And I'm okay with that.
That's more of a line for me.
Just because it's a veil for me does not mean it can't be a line for you.
Sure. No, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, and with these things, you go with whatever the strictest setting is. So if something is a veil for somebody and it's a line for somebody else, it's a line for the game and it's out.
Right. Daniel, any that you want to bring up?
I can't think of anything content-wise that would be a line or a veil for me. I do know that something Ryan has said in the past, as far as the way the setting is panned out, that he's had a contention being able to make warlocks work in this setting, and I think we've discussed earlier, but it's good to repeat for the edification of our listeners that certain things like tieflings were off the table as far as being able to do character creation, just because it kind of broaches that area that we're kind of trying to avoid or can really make work in this setting.
Right. That's fine. Is there anything in terms of like play that you don't want? For example, I'm going to use Peter as an example. I know Peter is very much against, PvP style moments in games.
Yep. Intra-party betrayal is a line for me.
That's not something I've had to deal a lot with.
Okay.
For the most part, I'm just going to be very much a yes and just kind of keep working with the group as it goes. I know that there's a defined difference between conflict and arguing in a group and a PvP. I know those are very, very distinct, but yeah, I don't really expect that to be an issue. So
Okay.
yeah, I think I'm all right.
Okay. If something comes up while we're having this conversation or even afterward, please feel free to add to it.
Absolutely.
Ben, anything that you want to be either a line or a veil?
Not that we haven't talked about or that I can think of.
Okay. William?
Same for me.
Okay. Okay. Cool. That's
Uh,
fine.
And
Peter?
yeah. I don't really like. Okay, so I am a big old softy, and like suffering animals bothers me. So I'd rather not deal with that.
Okay. Is that a line or a veil for you?
It's probably more of a veil, but like if you got to do it for a plot, do it. Don't do it super frivolously.
Right. Well, and I'm asking because, if, for example, oases that animals depend on are drying up, is that going to be a problem for you?
Yeah, I'm not doing premise rejection here. Don't worry about that.
No. But I need to know where the line is, right? Because if it's, I see some evidence that animals have migrated away because.
Yeah, that sort of thing is fine. Just don't.
Right. Or
I'm okay. So let me.
There's a desperate. Again, I'm going to make up a monster here. Desert manticore that's hungry because it can't find food. It's attacking you.
I am more concerned about deliberate cruelty towards like domestic animals. Don't show me somebody beating a dog.
Right.
Like, nature being nature, just cruelty is what I'm. And that kind of feeds into your, typical veil. It's just,
sure.
There's overlap here. I'm a player, so
right.
I'm bringing it
Absolutely.
up in that context.
Okay. I'm 100% okay with that. Would you say maybe that animal suffering's a veil and deliberate cruelty to animals is a line?
Yeah, I think that's probably good. Or you could probably even just say deliberate cruelty towards animals is a line, and I can deal with like animals like migrating around and stuff as long as it's not too graphic.
Well, we can make that a veil. I think that's fine.
Yeah.
All right.
So. By the way, folks, I kept this going a little bit just so you can kind of hear how this conversation goes when somebody's actually got an objection. Grant and I have had this conversation previously. It's just sometimes you got to suss it out a little. So
we do, and for example, we got to know where does this fall in terms of the premise? Does the premise need to be revisited, etc.? So it's important to hash out.
Premise does not need to be revisited in this particular case, at least not on my account. So
okay, good. All right. So we're running a little late. Let's do one last thing. I would like each of you to come up with one thing that you know about this setting, about this area of the world, and one opinion that you have about another character.
Okay, so give me, and I think we probably need to all take a sec for this, but give me a second because I want to go read the premise one more time.
Absolutely.
Just to make sure I'm on the same page with it, because I want to make sure before he formed. I think I have a loose idea, but I want to make sure I'm seeing it.
So yeah, the setting here we've got. Do you want me to just read off the premise pitch again?
It wouldn't hurt. Yeah, it'll give us a couple minutes to kind of work our way through for each of us.
The trade links between Ajoran and VR are some of Selansar's harshest. Volcanic wastes, deserts of black sand, and sharp precipices make all but a few routes impassable. Those roads are dependent on a series of oases, wellsprings of life in an otherwise inhospitable land, almost single-handedly supporting wary and isolationist nomadic clans, strange and hardy wildlife, and wealthy trade caravans. Over the past month, rumors have spread through VR like a sandstorm. Something is wrong in the north. They say the caravans have stopped. They say it's not safe on the roads. They say the waste clans have turned mad. They say whole towns have been abandoned. But one panicked rumor, always whispered and always met with fear, persists above all. they say the oases are gone.
Okay, so ask me the two questions again.
Sure. Ryan, tell me something about this setting that is true.
I think for Ruach, something about this thing is true, that he has been in this area long enough that he knows if the oasis are gone, because I think for Ruach he considers the oasis to be something provided by Yahweh to help people who live in this area. If the oasis are gone, oasis have disappeared. Someone has taken them. Someone has done this on purpose. This has been done intentionally, and this is not a changing. He doesn't see it as a changing of nature. As far as Ruach is concerned, this is someone doing something intentionally bad, and that is something he will need to address for himself.
Peter, tell me something about this place that is true.
Okay. The clan, the desert nomadic clan that Faramond is going to be my player character's name, by the way.
Ooh, we have a name.
Okay.
Nice.
Yes. It's an Arabic name meaning protector of travelers. It's perfect.
Nice.
Spell it.
Faramond. Or at least that's what the internet tells me it means, and I'm going to go with it because it's cool
Good enough.
sounding.
Seems decent.
It's an actual play that we're only going to hear audio.
Yeah. Okay. So he's from a desert clan somewhere out in the desert, and they have a very strong hospitality tradition. Blah, 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 blah. Hospitality. It's like hospitality, but it's very clumsy.
Okay, so the desert clans have a very strong.
At least his. So.
Is he from one of these clans then?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
he is.
I see this very much like a Prince of Egypt kind of thing, where when he shows up, I believe the man's name is Jericho. He shows up in Jericho's tribe, and they're just hugely welcoming and caring, for outsiders.
That's kind of what I'm picturing. Is just this very the environment is harsh, so we have to be kind, or people will not make it, kind of a thing.
Okay.
And I feel that's very historically true too.
Sure.
Yeah,
I
I
think-
really like that.
I think the line is, when all you've got is nothing, there's a lot to go around.
Right.
Ooh,
like that.
I've never
That
heard
is-
that line, but I like
is a
that
line
too.
expressly from the song Jericho sings when Moses shows up in their area.
You've been jamming Prince of Egypt a lot lately, haven't
Look,
you?
I've maybe listened to that soundtrack. How many years old am I? More times than I am years old.
Fair.
In its entirety. I know the songs better than I probably should.
Ryan, have we ever sent you the Prince of Egypt episode we did for Gameable Disney?
Wait, what now? No? Yeah, and also, yes, please.
Well, I'll get that to you after this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, that was delightful. I wish we could go back and do that again.
It was
also,
great fun.
I'm pretty sure Ryan just made the audible equivalent of grabby hands.
Yeah, more or less. Where's the thing? Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Show me the thing.
This is I'm getting it to you right now. Don't worry about it.
Yay.
All right.
I'm like a small child who's like, no, I need the thing now. Show
Daniel.
me the thing yesterday.
Daniel, tell me something about this place that is true.
Okay. I thought of a good one. Sorry, everyone, for the monkey's paw.
I'm not.
Of the Black Mountains, all of them were rumored to be volcanoes, but they haven't been heard from for a long time. However, the one that's in the middle of the two roads, there's been rumors of spurts of smoke coming from it, and tremors have been felt. So good luck, everybody.
She awakens. Yeah, I'm about it. I love it.
So this is that southern monad, the one right kind of in the middle of those roads.
Yes.
Perfect.
I can just hear the as the wrench goes flying towards the gears.
Also, fun fact: a mountain on its own is called a monad.
Oh,
Did not know that.
We have one here in Greenville, South Carolina. Ferris Mountain.
today I learned.
Interesting.
Very nice.
Ben, tell me something about this place that is true.
Even the few plants that exist in, or sparse plants, that live in a desert region, though mainly beneficial always, have all seemed to have also turned less blighty and more toxic. Where you could get water from a cactus if you needed it. It all seems to have been contaminated and tainted in some sort, in some way.
Interesting. Okay. Now that is a wrench. I like that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
But,
because that is something I did not have on my to-do list. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good reason to keep purified food and drink prepared.
And I think from a character perspective, it's something that would both very easily upset Ben's character and very easily upset mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at that. That's like I think
Mine too.
Hey,
Like,
hey, wait a minute.
Oh.
Those are important.
Yeah, and I'm just going to be a constant state of upset through the whole thing.
Perfect.
perfect.
All right. And
I want
William,
nothing more.
tell me something about this place that is true.
I'm trying to form the thoughts,
Okay.
so I might say a couple things, but I'm thinking
No rush.
with the disappearance of the oases, it's affected the weather. So I'm thinking maybe sandstorms more often, and that we mentioned it earlier. It makes the travel of the caravans more difficult and can cover up the landmarks or say blow them away or something like that.
Okay. So
So-
sandstorms have gotten worse.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So I asked you all to think also about something about other characters. I want to let's do this a little differently. Tell me something about. I'm going to switch back here to the other window here real fast. Sorry, I keep jumping windows around.
It's okay.
Let's share this one, and this should be the last thing that we do here.
The fact that this is a functional portion of this website, I am hugely impressed with. By the way, this is kind of cool.
Oh, just sharing the screen.
Well, like, and being able to just kind of jump around like you are and show us all these. I like that you can show us all these different things. That's super nice.
Well, this is what I do for work every day, so don't worry about it.
We're going to take advantage of those skills. I'm about it.
All right. So what I'd like each of you to do is tell me one thing that is true about your characters, and one thing your character thinks is true about another character. I'll leave it up to each player to determine whether or not that is true.
Oh,
If
okay.
you want it to be, it absolutely can be, but your character starts off thinking that about them. Peter?
You looking for like just personality and values, or do you want like physical stuff, or?
I asked for something that is true.
Okay. Pharamond has a bit of a limp from a run-in with one of those manticores we keep alluding to.
I'm writing
And
that down because that's going to show up at some point now.
and despite his generally forgiving personality, he really does not like to see a manticore on the horizon because of that. And I think he probably considers Ruach to be one of the most trustworthy and dependable people he knows.
Can I go next? Because that feeds into what I'm going to say about Ruach.
Absolutely, you can.
Okay, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, and I apologize for interrupting Peter.
Oh no, I was done.
Well, no, earlier, but that's fine. Yeah.
Oh.
The thing I will say about Ruach for certain is that he definitely thinks he knows what he's doing very well. Whether that's true or not is debatable. He is very confident he knows what he's doing. I think that plays into how, to some extent, how Fairman sees him. I don't know that Fairman's as right as Ruach would tell him as Ruach thinks he is, potentially. Because Ruach, I think, is going to come off a little more confident than maybe he...
Ruach has a little Dunning-Kruger effect going, perhaps?
I'm going to need that explained, because I keep hearing that phrase and I don't know exactly what it means.
Grant, you want to take this one?
It's where you have just enough knowledge, just that little bit of knowledge, and consider yourself an expert.
That sort of explains my stat spread, too, so I'm okay with that. So, because the stat spread I think I've settled on, I think that fits nicely.
Sure. Okay. So tell me the true thing about yourself and this true thing about this thing that Ruach thinks is true about Pheromond.
Okay, well, the thing Ruach thinks is the thing that is true about Ruach is that he definitely thinks he's capable of being this guide for people. He's maybe a little too he has enough knowledge to be dangerous, and is maybe a little too confident in what he considers to be his new mission in life. Because
so
I
the
think
true
Shepard's
thing is
fairly.
is that he overstates to his own ability to himself.
I think so. Because Shepard is something that's a little new to him. Maybe like, well, yes, it is all 7 levels of his character. It is something that the switch from actually just being a professional herder of beasts to this other step he has taken is not something he's been doing super long. But he's fairly certain he's going to be great at it.
Gotcha.
Cool. And I think it's actually not Pheromond. The thing he thinks that's true about someone else is he's fairly confident Ansel's not ready for this. I would like him to be 100% wrong about that.
Cool. All right. Well, that gives us a good excuse to go over to Daniel and Ansel. Daniel, tell me something true about Ansel and which Ansel thinks is true about someone else.
Okay. Ansel is he's overlooked at his job. He's been passed up a whole bunch on now he's like a junior assistant, but maybe if he completes this right, he can be a junior executive assistant. And there's a lot writing on this. He's really good at problem solving, but in a way that someone else usually gets the credit for it. So he gets overlooked a lot. So hopefully he can come back with the success of this mission and actually get that promotion that he's 10 years overdue for. So that's going to be the true thing about him, is he's really good at problem solving, but he's very overlooked at his job.
So he's good at problem solving, tends to be overlooked, and sees his success here as vital to his personal success.
Yes.
Okay. And what do you think is true about someone else? What does Ansel think about one of the other characters?
Ansel thinks that Pheromond is basically going to be his lifeline through this whole thing. That out of everybody else, Pheromond's the one that is the most capable. He has the best references. He has like a 5-star on Yelp, and so in Ansel's mind, Pheromond is going to be the most capable one, and he's basically going to follow him around like a little puppy.
Okay.
11 out of 10 would hire again. I love it.
Yeah. Love it. All right.
Because it's his only connection. So that's like, all right, this is the dude. This is the one.
Okay.
That's not going to give Pheromond a complex at all.
You're
Because he's not wired in that. He's not wired in that way to begin with, or anything. Oh no.
Excellent. Ben, tell me something true about Reap.
I would say Reap is much more confident in his survivability when he is not in humanoid form. He basically knows his weaknesses are physicality, but leans more heavily on his beast knowledge and the knowledge of the animals that he can shift into. Because he knows where he lies is more in the thoughts and wisdom than it is the physicality of the physical doing of things.
Okay. And what is something that Reap thinks is true about one of the other characters?
I'm pondering this.
I didn't say it was easy.
No.
And I think it's
Especially-
a fascinating exercise because it's not one I've had someone ask me before.
Yeah, it's especially interesting, like pre-actually meeting any characters.
Welcome to Gaming with Grant.
Play a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse, because when you're doing Powered by the Apocalypse, it's not I think this is true. It's this is true about your character. So there's a lot of fun.
I think on first meeting, Reap has zero confidence in Ansel's abilities to survive outside of a building.
Just any building, really, just outside is bad.
Yeah. But Reap also trusts William. Do we have a name for William's character yet?
No.
Okay. He is much better with the geography side of things than he ever could dream of being.
Okay, so William Reap deeply respects William's character's knowledge of geography.
Yeah.
And cartography. It's two, but oh no, character development, drama. How terrible! How dare we? William.
I really hope that Reap is right, for one. What about knowledge? Like, and so I may need help coming up with something, but I was thinking
This is fun.
maybe my character sees the way things are changing, and playing off the smoke coming from the volcano, knows that if our mission isn't accomplished soon, there will be no going back. The landscape will change entirely. Does that work?
Sure. Is it a true thing about your character?
Yes.
Then it works. All right.
And
So William's
then-
character knows that the landscape here will be irrevocably altered if we fail.
Yes.
All right.
And then kind of
That
the same,
might be true about someone else.
kind of along the same lines, I think that Reap is going to be be able to help guide us really well in seeing the changes to the plants. Like being able, in the same way that I can see where the geology has changed, Reap will be able to kind of guide us in a sense. That may not make sense, but that's what I'm going with.
Keep you all safe, maybe, from the wildlife in the area.
Yeah, and like the plants. Okay, I guess I'm reaching, but
No,
Like,
it's not a reach. I'm just trying
create
to help you define it.
creates a kind of add to the map, I guess, of where we're headed.
Say that again. Sorry, I think you cut out.
I think I'm reaching. I'll try to come up with something else.
It's totally fine to reach. Remember, this is something that might be true.
Okay, well, so my specialty is geography. I
Mhm.
can tell that things are changing by the way they look. Essentially, that's the same for Reap. He knows enough to be able to tell where the plants are, how much time we have left, and even help provide. When I can't tell which way to go, he will be able to.
Okay, so your character thinks Reap's knowledge of the local flora and fauna is infallible?
Sure.
Excellent. That's not a sentence that'll ever come back to bite anyone.
You said might, so I'll go for it.
Yeah, it might be true. Who knows? Maybe it will. We shall see. Okay. I will make all of these notes available to everyone. And hopefully Ryan can let some of this be available to listeners as well.
Not a problem.
Some of this is going to be super sketchy. Some of this is going to be pretty detailed. That's great. That's what game planning is like. It's like I've got like half of the information about this character, a third of the information about this character, and I don't have any idea what to do about combat encounters yet. Oh dear. Okay. Oh. I should come up with a plot. Things like that.
Oh, can I go back to the veils and breaks real quick? And
Yes.
TPKs are a hard break for me.
Sure. Fun fact, they're a heartbreak for me as well. Actually, I don't love them. Yeah. So yeah, if actually, that raises a question. What is our opinion on character death or character removal from the game because of external things that happened rather than the character having some deep internal reason to no longer be an adventurer or something like that?
Speaking from experience, first round combat removal, I'm against.
Right.
10th round combat, okay, possible. But yeah, I've actually had a character die in the first round, insta-death. So I'm a little gun shy there.
So no unfair combat. That be reasonable?
Yes. No ancient dragons in the first fight.
I mean, Ryan did give us a dragon that we were supposed to fight in the very first round of the last season, but we talked to it. So
He was a big little dragon.
and
He
that
so
was
cute.
that was
He
scaled
wasn't going to be a
intentionally.
challenge. He was going to be a snuggler. He was.
Yeah,
he
he
was
was.
so adorable.
She was such a nice lady.
you just give her scritches.
Yep.
I do speak
Yeah.
Draconic.
He
I
does.
just I
We'll be fine.
loved like that. Ryan rolled with that so well, and then he went on MinMax and talked about it, and I was like, "Oh, that's lovely."
Yeah, that
He
was
completely
not.
threw him for a loop.
Nope.
Yep. And I should note, I like. First off, I like creative solving of problems. I like it when people outthink me. Like, that's fun. But I'm not sitting here going, "Mwahaha, you have to outthink me to get out of this jam." I don't care. I always, when I'm trying to present like a puzzle or a problem, my rule of thumb is I had better have a way out of this for the player characters in case they can't think of one. Right. Because trust me, it's happened before where we were all like, we don't have any solution to this. And the GM went, well, shoot, I didn't come up with one because I thought you would. So
Uh-oh.
it turns
That ain't
out
a
we're
great
stuck.
place to be.
No, it wasn't. And we had to rewind the campaign a couple of sessions to pick it back up from there. Yeah, in fairness,
Learning experiences.
the group was able to do it and we handled it well. And, given that this was much earlier on in our gaming career, I'm glad we were able to do that. But, I enjoy that. I am not going to say I'm not going to throw the occasional difficult combat at you, because that's fun and challenging. But not everything is going to be a slog, because I don't like sloggy combats. They're just dull. We all have better things to do with our time.
All right. So back to your original question about characters being removed from the game.
Yeah.
I think I'm on like a kind of like a veil with that. Like if we can discuss it beforehand, or if it's specifically my character, or really any other party member's character, like if we know it's going to happen and if there's a good narrative reason for it to happen,
Mm-hmm.
I think we could make that work. But just
Sure.
rocks fall, everyone dies. I'm gonna say no on that.
Yeah. And I think that's fair for everyone. I certainly don't enjoy that.
Yeah.
I try not to be like, all right, save versus death. Like, that's just dull.
No Game of Thrones deaths.
No. But again, if somebody's like, hey Grant, this would be a good session for my character to die, I'd be like, sweet. Tell me, just give me the wink and the nod, and you'll get stabbed.
If there's a legitimate story reason, I think it's something I'm okay with.
Okay.
If we can make it work from that perspective, I don't have any objectives. And look, if I die in combat because combat just goes that poorly, it's not a huge problem for me, as long as it's like Ben said, or like you said, it's not one of those just, oops, you're all done.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and just to be
It
clear,
is
this
what it
is
is
more
there.
like, okay, if you guys lose the fight, is that the end? Or is it, my character, this character, sure, technically they failed all their death saves and everything. Are they just like severely wounded and we got to regroup and treat this as a big setback while this character convalesces and gets back up and rejoins? Or are they just gone and I get to make another character? Right? That's kind of the line that I'm trying to suss out.
I think if we can do it for our purposes from a content perspective, if we can do it without I don't know that the person necessarily needs to die, but if a person's character, heavy air quotes, as I sometimes say in our games, Pokemon faints, and
Right.
they want to retire the character from there and to move on from to something else, I don't have an issue with that. I don't want a lot of like. Again,
Narrative
it's one of those things.
consistency matters.
Yeah,
I'll
when it's
give
one of
you
those
that.
things where like it's not a thing we've ever done. I don't expect it to be a thing we ever do, so I'm not hugely worried about it. But if it comes up, as long as we talk about it, like Ginny said, like Ginny doesn't. My understanding is doesn't really mind being thrown in the meat grinder on things like that. From how she
That
attaches
is
to
putting
characters.
it mildly. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm maybe quite that point with it, but if something happens, I can roll with it. That's fine.
Yeah, Jenny likes to play spellcasters who have low constitution scores and do melee attacks.
Shocking grass for everyone. Yep, I'm okay with it. I like it.
Yeah. Jenny likes to kind of step on her own character's toes. It's interesting.
It is a
I'm very glad we took out that dragon before that
Yeah.
happened with John.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. I just fair warning, I will never roll that well again. So you guys should be fine. You're safe.
I would say I'm more open to amputation and limb loss than I am to permanent death.
Okay, so like serious consequences, but not this character I've invested in is no longer available to me.
Right.
Okay.
Goes back, I think, to the fail spectacularly.
Right.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, I like that too. I like the Pokemon Faint analogy, and I think there are consequences. There's a real hurt here. Maybe not even physical, but narrative or dramatic.
I
Like
was
we
gonna say-
failed to stop this.
Yeah, like as long as we
Ooh,
don't get gruesome, I think that's totally fine. I think it's workable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And this just helps me suss out like how do I narrate things, and occasionally like what happens if a character does go down in combat.
This is also going to
That's what-
surprise you a little bit, but for this one, because it's a short-term thing,
Cool.
if I step on a landmine, I'll just make another character. I've got 3,000 character concepts.
Ooh,
Especially
landmines.
since your character has a limp.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to write down landmines and
Oh, wait.
Those are not setting appropriate.
Yeah.
all right. Anything
Okay,
else from
so,
anyone that we want to bring up?
No.
And I think we do need to wrap fairly soon.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think it's time.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while.
Cool. Thank you, folks. I appreciate everybody putting the time in on this. I know I threw you a couple of curveballs. I'm excited. I think there's a lot to work from here. You guys have added a couple of things that I get to go back to my notes and be like, all right, so where does this fit in? And that's exciting.
To
And
our
I'm
audience. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm looking forward to the first session. This is going to be great.
Yeah,
And
same here.
to our audience, anything in our future that lasts more than 2 sessions, expect one of these from now on because I'm here for it, and this was great. I'm a big fan of this concept. It's something we've never done before on the show. Sort of this, session 0, figuring out how it all connects kind of thing. Basically, anything that lasts more than a couple of sessions will probably have something like this in the future. Because this was great, and I think it was really good for us building a good foundation for that kind of thing, and I want that from now on. So you will see more of this.
Yes.
And do it once and you'll never go back. It's really great.
Apparently, yeah.
Yes. And thank you, Grant, for setting this up and running a good session 0.
Good. I'm glad everybody's gotten something out of it already. That is
Yeah.
reassuring.
Thank you for volunteering to DM. I appreciate
no.
that greatly.
My pleasure. Trust me, I get to talk more. That's my fun. So
Fair.
I'm not proud of it, but that's who I
Look,
am.
You do you. That's totally fine.
All right, cool. And if everybody can just get characters in Roll20, Ryan, if you want to get the Roll20 stuff set up behind
Yes,
the scenes and
I will
everything.
take care of that.
If anybody needs help, obviously, we'll work all that out of band, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Ben, if you need help with like spell selection for your druid, ping me and I will help you out with that.
Yep.
So
And William, if you need help naming characters, hit me up.
Oh, you can also just go through the IKEA catalog,
It
which
worked
is my
well last
favorite
time.
way to name characters.
Look, it sounds like a joke. He's done it once already, and I expect it to happen more often, frankly. So we
All right.
will definitely sort William out.
Ryan, you want to take us out?
If one of you will, give me the saving the game stuff, and we will go from there.
Sure.
I'll take it. So Grant and I are 2/3 of saving the game. We do like RPG analysis, basically, and applied theology from a Christian perspective. You can find us at stgcast.org, savingthegamepodcast.org, at Saving the Game on Facebook or Twitter, and also on our Discord server, which is linked from our webpage, stgcast.org.
Also, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play,
Yeah.
all your usual podcast places.
Yep. We're on a every other week schedule, and on the weeks when we don't have an episode, I write a blog post. So you can find all of that at the website.
Yep.
And you can find us cityonthehillgaming.com, or like Grant said, wherever you get your podcast. We are on Twitter at City on the Hill Game. We are on Twitch. I believe it's City on the Hill Gaming. Look out for that. We're going to be using it at least slightly more often. We've got some things coming up. And if you're a fan of Retro Rewind, or if you've never heard of the Retro Rewind podcast, go check them out.
It's a good podcast.
Yes, it is. Before this comes out, I think their episode 205 will release, which is their episode for the Disney classic, yes, I said classic, fight me, Mulan, which I got to be on, which was super fun, with Ashley,
Nice.
who is one of their big fans and one of our Patreon sponsors, and also Celeste from Geek Devotions. She's one half of the Geek Devotions group with her and her husband, Dallas, I believe is his name. So the three of us went on Retro Rewind and talked at length about Mulan from some different aspects, and that was super fun. So thank you to Francisco and Paul for that. That was a great opportunity. Really appreciate that. And yeah, look out for more of our D&D or whatever else we play next. Goodness in the future. Patreon.com for us and Saving the Game, and we will talk to you guys later. Have a blessed day. Thanks for listening to City on the Hill Gaming. For more information, you can find us online at cityonthehillgaming.com, email us at cityonthehillgaming@gmail.com, or find us on Twitter at cityonthehillgame. For more information on Saving the Game, you can find Peter, Grant, and Jenny at stgcast.org or at Saving the Game on Twitter. Thanks, and have a blessed day. Special thanks to our Patreon backers, Ashley, Joanne, Tony and the folks from the Nerd of Godcast, and Andrew and Christina. We really appreciate it, guys.